Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Doaa Abu Elyounes. I am a program specialist at UNESCO in the social and human sciences sector and the section of ethics of science and technology. And I'm very happy to talk to you today about the recommendation on the AI ethics and how it can be used to facilitate information accessibility. Let me go ahead and share my screen. With you. Just a second. All right. So as I said, I will talk to you about the recommendation on the AI ethics of UNESCO and how it can be used to facilitate information accessibility. Why did we at UNESCO adopted this recommendation in 2021? Perhaps the best example to show you is the large language models, and in particular ChatGPT, that the discussion about them is dominating the space lately. And the fact that they grew immediately after the release, much faster than other social media platform out there. Basically, the goal of the recommendation is to balance between the pros and cons of the technology, between the fact that technology can facilitate a great opportunity, but also serve as a liability if it's not used correctly. If we look at the example of large language models, with the lenses of the recommendation and accessibility, we know that the information that the systems have access to are often difficult because they could be biased, they could be not accurate. Access to this information is limited. While the system operates in multiple languages, they often perform much badly if it's not in English. And they can also facilitate misinformation and disinformation because it's very hard to verify the accuracy of the information. So basically, this is the reason behind the elaboration of the recommendation. And also the fact that by the time we elaborated the recommendation, there were a lot of instruments out there about AI governance and AI in general, but none of them was global. It takes into account the perspective of the global south, the perspective of different diverse groups, the perspectives of people with different abilities. So we wanted to have a tool, a UN tool that is agreed on all and on all countries that serves really to level the playing field when it comes to AI ethics and AI governance. So the recommendation was adopted by acclamation in November 2021, following 2 years of elaboration, very multi-stakeholder, very inclusive. As I mentioned, we wanted to get all perspectives. So we consulted the group of experts that is composed of 24 members, balanced in terms of gender and geography, basically elaborate the first draft, but this went through very broad sessions of consultation across the world, regional and sub-regional, and from the public we collected 50,000 comments approximately. At the end, we consulted our member states, which the recommendation is their document, and we had to arrive at consensus that reflects the agreement of all. Let me talk to you about the structure of the recommendation. So I like to think about it as a pyramid where the values, the 4 values, serve as the bottom, line that holds everything together. The first kind of step. So those are 4 values, and you can recognize here common things like protecting human rights and human dignity, ensuring diversity. So again, the concept of accessibility is very much echoed here. We also, on top of the values, we have 10 principles, and those are the principles that you often see when it comes to AI governance, like fairness, transparency, accountability, human in the loop. And for our topic today, perhaps fairness is very important one to focus on because it calls on member states to ensure inclusivity in the development of AI system. And what we mean by that is basically ensuring that everyone is able to benefit, enjoy the benefits of that the technology has to offer, and ensuring that information about AI system is readily accessible and available online. So accessibility of the systems itself, accessibility of the information, and responsibility of the developers of the AI systems to ensure it can be used by all, and the responsibility of member states to put in place the policies and the regulations that would ensure that those guidelines are being followed, basically. But of course, accessibility is not just about fairness. It's also echoed in the other principles like transparency, accountability. So it's a combination of all principles together that would enable us to have a good and ethical AI system. On top of the principles and the values, we have the policy areas, which are the last layers that basically unpacks the values and the principles into concrete 11 domains that touch on the expertise domain of UNESCO, where we provide guidelines for governments and other AI stakeholders on how the recommendation should be followed. Basically, just to give you again few examples related to accessibility of information, in education, for example, we call on member states to ensure that courses on AI systems are available, to ensure the accessibility of the information in general, the quality of the information, not just its access, and also where there is more than one language spoken in the country, which is the case, I hope, everywhere, to ensure that the information is available in the commonly spoken languages, not just in the main language of the country. So respecting different cultures and languages spoken across the country. To give you more concrete examples about the policy areas, so we'll start with ethical governance and stewardship. And these are the kind of mechanisms that we put in place for countries to respect. So ensuring that there are remedial actions. If there is harm, there is compensation, and that there are AI ethics governance frameworks. Another important policy area is the policy area on data protection and privacy, which calls on member states to ensure that users have control over their data and that data governance framework exists, because access to data is one of the major hurdles beyond for enjoying the benefits of AI systems. Last example of policy area that I want to talk about is in terms of gender inclusivity and gender equality, which is a priority area for UNESCO. Here we call on member states to dedicate funding from their public funds to ensure that the recommendations are being followed and to ensure the inclusivity of women and girls throughout the AI life cycle, ensuring girls' entrepreneurship and inclusivity in STEM-related disciplines. So we have the recommendation. How about its implementation? It was adopted 2 years ago, as I mentioned. In terms of implementation, we elaborated an extensive plan that allows us to basically follow up with member states and other stakeholders on different fronts. So we developed two flagship tools that I will touch on in the next slides. But in addition to them, we also put in place networks that enable us to facilitate this interaction, like the network for women in ethics of AI, that help us to advance particularly the gender part of the recommendation and the aspects related to fairness and inclusivity, which a lot of them are also related to access to information and accessibility of information. And also the network of AI experts without borders, which will help us to work in countries where enhancing capacity is needed and to work with international renowned experts that has knowledge in the areas where enhancing the expertise is needed. So the tools that we developed are also important avenue for collecting data, ensuring the data exists. Because, for example, through the readiness assessment methodology, which is the tools that help us to assess where countries currently stand in terms of their readiness, in terms of the preparedness of their policies and laws to adopt and implement AI ethically, we're currently working with 40 countries that are undergoing this exercise. So we ask them questions about whether they have AI-related laws, how about their data protection laws, how about their access to information and access to knowledge laws? Are they kind of equipped to deal with AI-related questions? All this information will be featured on our forthcoming observatory. And for each one of the countries that we are working with, there will be a country report that summarizes the situation in the country. And the ethical impact assessment, the second tool, is aimed at government procurement officers to help them to make sure that the tools that they're purchasing are in line with the different areas of the recommendation. And also to companies who want to be leaders in the field to basically undergo this assessment and publish to the public more information about their system. Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to stay in touch with those of you who have any questions.